Thank you, Tanya. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here and engaging with all of you, even though I cannot see you. I'm trusting that you are there. Welcome. This session is called Language Equity and Access, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal outreach journey to multilingual communities. First of all, my name is Mariana Lamaison Sears. I am an outreach manager at Hunger Free Vermont. I've been in this position for about, I would say, 15 months, so about a year and a half or so. So I'm still pretty new. I am originally from Argentina, so it's funny that we have a Spanish translation available for my English, which I am translated from Spanish. So if you speak Spanish and you have a question in Spanish, no need for translation. You can shoot it right at me. I have moved to the United States in the year 2001, a long time ago, and I've lived in Texas, I lived in Vermont, I lived in Pennsylvania, and then I went back to Argentina for 5 years. And then I came back to Vermont for the last 3 years. So it's been quite a journey, and that has given me the chance to experience the United States in different ways. And I'm sharing a little bit of my personal journey because I guess that illustrates a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today in terms of language equity. So I'm ready to start. And before I am going to tell you a little bit of what we will cover this time together. And please feel free to put any questions in the chat at any moment if you need to, but know that at the end, I reserve 10 minutes to make sure that we can have a specific time for that too. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Hunger Free Vermont, who we are, what we do. I'm going to share with you what is language equity and why it is important. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey learning about language equity and trying to work toward a more equitable Hunger Free Vermont. I'm going to tell you how we began, what we've been doing, who we work with, and what's coming next. And as I said, at the end, there will be a time for question and answers. So let's just start. Hunger Free Vermont mission is to end hunger for all Vermonters. And we started in 1993, and we do work with partners and service providers across the state, both to bring information to the community about food access programs and about food access resources, but also to gather feedback from the community. And we do that in order to advocate for changes to the systems that in many occasions create the problems to begin with. So in other words, we do technical assistance and education, we do outreach and community engagement, and we do public policy, policy advocacy. And in the slide, you can see two of the slogans on that we use for two important campaigns. One important campaign has been universal school meals. You might know that Vermont has become one of the first states in the United States to have universal school meals. The law passed last year, and this has been the first school year in which all our kids in our all public schools and some independent schools too have breakfast and lunch at no cost to families every day in every school. So that has been in the works for several years, and the pandemic pushed and we work very hard with our legislatures to make them see the benefits of this universal school meal program, and we were very happy to see coming to fruition earlier last year. On the other side of the slide, you have one of the posters that we created for promoting our summer meal sites for kids and teen, and that's part of the work we do also with partners. So jumping into our topic today. So what is language equity? And that's a big question. When we started to talk about this with our team at Hunger Free Vermont, I could not define language equity in any terms for anybody to understand, except I could speak about my own experiences. And, these topics could be sensitive for some people, but I'm willing to share because I think it's important that everybody knows how someone can feel in terms of navigating a culture in a language that is not your own. If you're a non-native speaker of English, may have similar experiences, or this may be the first time you hear some things. Like, for instance, I have to fake smiles many times when people tell jokes because I don't get the fun part of them. I feel like I am a burden in many meetings or in encounters with professional partners or with the teachers of my kids or at the supermarket. In many different spaces, I have to ask many times because sometimes I don't understand. And I've been around for a while and I know my English is okay, but I still struggle with my language. Sometimes I am scared to being exposed, like, oh, I'm not sure what they're saying and I already asked 2 times, so I gotta go with the flow. And it makes you nervous. You're not sure what are you gonna say next. You have to kind of guess from the context. So those are some of the experiences that someone like me, and I'm sure that there are many hundreds of millions of experiences, similar or different, but for you to have a sense. So when I had to define this term, I could speak about my experiences, but I could not put a definition. So I went ahead and did a little bit of research because I thought it was important to find something that, okay, I can share this in a presentation. Not at all times I'm going to be able to talk about my feelings. So I found this definition, which is: language equity is the recognition that all languages and all varieties of a language are equally worth it. And it really felt true to me and resonated with me. And I decided to, share it with everyone. So, there's no one official definition of language equity. There are many terms used to define this topic. And so I came across, language barriers, language inclusion, language equality. So it's a little bit of that's why, again, I named my presentation a journey, because we are learning as we go. We are defining things as we go. And this is something dynamic. It's on the making and it's in progress. And my definition, I got it from the IGI Global website, which is a publisher of academic scientific papers internationally. So I thought that was a reliable source too. So why is it important? And again, doing my research, I discovered this very interesting Communication Justice in Vermont report that was published in 2022, in which it says that language access is a human right, and one's ability to speak English should not determine the success of one's experiences in the United States. I felt that was so important. I also learned that the US does not have an official language. Different cultures and different people should receive equal treatment and services regardless of the language or languages that they speak or sign. So that's very important. But even more important is the fact that it is simply the law. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, in its title number 6, says that no person in the United States shall, on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So that's very important to remember. First, that language has been ever since seen as part of your national origin. So if you are not discriminated because of your national origin, your language is part of that heritage. So language access should be important there. And also, anybody working in programs that distribute federal money need to make sure that they are not missing the law if they don't have that information that is needed to spread the word of said programs in all the languages that are needed or that are spoken in a certain place. So I wanted to take a breather here, just because there's a lot of information for me, for you. It is dense and there's a lot of things going on. So I thought that instead of telling you more about why language equity is important in Vermont, I wanted to show you why it is important. So I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, what do you see here? What are these two photos representing? See, anybody, I mean, don't be shy. Just put something in the chat. What do you see there? What is being represented? And I'm looking at the chat and I don't see anything. So, anyone? All right. You may be a little shy to write something in the chat, but these are pictures of Vermont milk farms. And these are iconic illustrations of what Vermont is and what we are all about, our rural, agricultural-based heritage and economy. And it is pretty depictive of us. And here in the next picture, you are going to see why language equity it is important in Vermont and within our rural world. So here you also see pictures of Vermont milk farms, and you see the images of the people who actually milk our cows. And here is why language equity is important, because many of the people who are working in our milk farms do not speak English. They migrate from Central America and from Mexico, and they make a living in Vermont working at the farms. As you can see in this particular photo, some people are even parenting in these farms. So here's a little new American that one day will speak English, hopefully, and maybe, but at this point, I'm pretty sure parents are speaking in their native language, and you can tell by the conditions of the photo that these people, once they make their lives in Vermont, they're probably going to need services to thrive and to make a living, a dignified living. So it is very important to have services available in languages for these people to access to them. So Vermont has been taking steps toward language equity, and the state has created a Vermont Office of Racial Equity, and the purpose of that office is to make equity an intentional part of all work in all government sectors. The Office of Racial Equity has put together a language access report in January 2023. It was presented in March, and there is a link in the presentation. Later, you can watch the presentation if you're interested in learning more. And the findings were super interesting to me. There are more than 34 languages spoken or signed in Vermont, in little Vermont. That tells about the many communities that live here. But also, more importantly, is the amount of taxes that immigrants have paid in 2018. 28.1 million. That really is an illustration of how important these communities are for our state and how they are contributing to the economy, to the system, to the operation of the state. Another interesting finding is that 70,000 Vermonters are affected by hearing loss. And this was a big aha moment for me, because when I started to think about language equity, I was not thinking about people with different abilities. I was thinking about people from different cultures, national cultures, and right there is my own bias exposed. I was not thinking about that because it was not my experience. I do not have any members of my family or friends that are affected by hearing loss. And I was not aware that there are so many in Vermont, and that for many members of this community, members that are deaf or hard of hearing or blind deaf, they have their own language, which is American Sign Language, and is a sign language, is not a spoken language. So this opened up a new avenue for us to continue working toward the goal of language equity with a new goal and a new community and a new vision. So a little bit more background that makes this work relevant in Vermont, and I'm sure in other states this would also be applicable. Vermont has been welcoming newcomers since 1980. So for the past 82 years, we have more than 8,000 refugees starting new lives in Vermont. We also have migrant and seasonal workers from Mexico and Central America, the photos I've shown you before. And not all newcomers receive the same services, and not all of them have the same legal status. But everybody shares one struggle when they arrive, and that is not finding a lot of information in the languages that they speak. And so that is a struggle for them, for all of us newcomers at some point, whether we incorporate ourselves into the culture deeper or more stay into the surface, and depending our level or our capacity to learn the language, we all share that one common struggle when we arrive, which is trying to navigate a world that is mostly in English. And as such, you or us or people like us will be identified as a group mostly or most likely be impacted by hunger and food insecurity. Just food insecurity, just the fact that you go to the supermarket and sometimes you don't understand what you are buying, it is a barrier. So there is a lot of depth to this, but yeah, we all shared the language access struggle. And here is where it's all linked to the work that we do at Hunger Free Vermont. When I came in as an outreach manager, we were redefining our mission and vision, and we were making a lot of emphasis and centering the voices of those most impacted by hunger. And we just said that a language barrier impact in food security. And as such, I was hired a little bit because of my personal experience as an immigrant, and I was tasked with this work for making sure that we look at our outreach material with the lenses of someone who has been navigating this world or has been experiencing some of these struggles. So one main focus for me was 3 Squares Vermont. Those 3 initials, 3SVT, means 3 Squares Vermont, and what it is the SNAP program local name. So our SNAP program in Vermont is called 3 Squares Vermont. So I jumped right at it, and again, I decided to, I originally designed this presentation thinking that I would be able to interact with all of you a little bit more, but I'm not sure if anybody wants to take a guess of what these languages are. If anybody wants to write in the chat, I will be happy to play a little bit of a game. I can read the chat. Do you want to guess what is the upper left language? Anyone? Or the upper right? Or the bottom left? Or the bottom right? Anybody listening who wants to put in the chat, take a guess. Any language that you can identify here. And okay, so I don't see any responses in the chat. So I will tell you. No worries about it. So the upper left is Ukrainian, and the upper right is Swahili. The bottom left is Espanol, Spanish, and the bottom right is Vietnamese. And
Mariana, I just want to make sure you are looking at the session chat. I see some folks dropping in some responses now, so just want to make sure you see those coming in.
Oh, thank you for telling me. I am looking at the session chat, but I don't see any. I don't know. Do you want to read them to me? Maybe because I have the window minimized. Let's see. Oh, there. Okay. Oh, very good. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. That was my bad. It was the window with the chat was minimized, so I could not see any answers. Oh, you all been there participating. Thank you so much. Yes, Spanish, Vietnamese, Ukrainian. Very good. I see Sandra and Christy answers and Gabriela. Oh, and somebody was saying farmland and agriculture. Well, thank you so much. I wasn't sure if you were being very shy or no, I realized that I was not being able to read the chat. I apologize for that. But yeah, the idea of having these cards here, it was also to see if you could feel a little like a lot of people feel like, you know, when you don't understand the language and you are faced with an image, it's like, oh, it's a little disconcerting. So I thought it would be a good exercise to play. Basically, what it says in the car is, you know, we have our VermontFoodHealth.com website for anybody to visit and learn more about Three Squares Vermont, which is the SNAP program here in Vermont. And the car says, Three Squares Vermont equals more money for food. So it's a simple message. And we thought that that would be appealing to anybody getting a hand of it. So, as I said, Three Squares Vermont is similar to SNAP. It is the SNAP program here in Vermont, and we've been translating these cards. And there's a link in the slideshow for you for if you want to access these cards and see them online. We have in the VermontFoodHealth.com, we have an outreach toolkit for our service providers and partners, so they can download or print their own materials, or they can also request materials to be sent to them for their work with different communities. On the other side of this card, it says, Three Squares Vermont help people to buy food every month. People who are refugees, immigrants, and non-citizens can be eligible for Three Squares Vermont. And applying to this program will not interfere with your legal immigration status, and your information will not be given to other governmental agencies. Please call, and there's a number with a translation line for people to reach out and choose the language that they need if they need help with assistance. And there's also another website to obtain more information on the other side of the card. Again, in this yellow link, you will be able to be directed to our website. But if you visit VermontFoodHealth.com, you'll be able to find the outreach toolkit, and all our materials are there. So I initially started translating, and we went with 15 languages based in our largest communities. So we've translated in Arabic, Bosnian, Burmese, Dari, French, Kirundi, Mandarin, Chinese, Nepali, Pashto, Somali, Spanish, Swahili, Ukrainian, and Vietnamese. And it's a lot of work to deal with these materials, especially with organizations that work with grants in which materials have to be counted and distributed. It's been time demanding and challenging, but so far we're learning as we go. We also develop translated materials that are seasonal. For instance, right now, the cold weather is coming. So we've translated this flyer that links the SNAP program with the fuel assistance program, which is a program that will provide help to pay for fuel or your electricity bill. And again, we've linked the materials for if you want to take a peek, and there are in English and in the other 15 languages. And little by little, we have been revising our materials and translating each of them in the many different languages. This, for instance, is in French, and this one combines school meals and 3 Squares Vermont. And after revising, and of course we've went through the process of deciding who was going to be our translator, and we had interviews with them to see how would they do this work, if they would be verbatim translation or they would be some sort of like more concept of ideas translation, and what were their steps for quality check. So this seems like now in pictures kind of like an easy and quick goals, but this took a while, and it has been done with intention to make sure that that we were walking on the right direction. And right after like developing this plethora of materials and printing them and having them ready, we started to distribute via our established already networks and partners. So we reach out to our hunger councils, to the work group we have every month with the SNAP partners, with the Network for Refugees and Immigrants, the RiskNet, and different other organizations, Migrant Justice, the University of Vermont Migrant Health Program, etc. So we already had developed relationship with these partners, and we distributed our materials for them in turn to distribute them with their clients and customers. But at the same time, we started to develop new relationships because we realized that with these materials, we could reach to new communities and create new partnerships that we hadn't explored in the past. So we reach out to schools and multilingual liaisons. Vermont's the schools that has the most amount of multilingual communities now have school liaisons, which are people that help connect families with the school. We reach out to the different ESL programs and teachers. We reach out to adult learning centers across the state. We reach out to the Health Disparities and Cultural Competence Advisory Group. And we reach out to the Vermont Language Justice Project, who has been one of our main partners, and we've been collaborating with them in different ways. And here is a little bit about the Vermont Language Justice Project. I will encourage anyone to visit the website of the project because they have been doing a tremendous work here in Vermont, and their extent has been spread to other states as well and to other places in the world. So basically, the project began as a bunch of volunteers putting together videos in different languages when the pandemic started, because they realized that information was putting out in English every other day with updates, and these communities were left behind. So they started to put information as of how to do a rapid test, anything that has to do with COVID. And they started to get bigger and create more materials, and they started to fundraise, and they found a place to establish themselves with one of the local TV networks. Anyways, they created also a bi-weekly task force in which members of all these multicultural and multilingual communities around Vermont are participating. And I joined the task force as a member of a food access organization. And together, in collaboration with all these people, we are deciding what videos to put out. The videos are put in 17 languages, and the videos are short, like 2 to 3 minutes, and they expanded from solely health initially, and now they do all sort of cultural and general information videos. Over the summer, we were able to work specifically with them in a series of multilingual videos promoting summer meals. We thought that was a a great idea because the summer meal program does not require registration and is so easy to participate. You just show up at a site with your children and you can access a meal. So it made a lot of sense to create this video, and we were able to spread the word via all the schools that has communities, and we felt that it was a very successful project. And we are in the process of coming up with a series about the SNAP program specifically. So we're hoping to have that for early next year. And in the meantime, we continue to collaborate with them and learn in the process. Via the Language Justice Project is how I got to learn a lot about also the deaf and deaf, blind, and hard of hearing community. And that is also one of the things that we started to look into more deeply. We also started to think about, well, we are distributing all these materials and we are directing people to our website, but our website is in English. So we weren't sure how to translate a website into so many languages, and that posed a little bit of a challenge until we looking a little bit about what other partners were doing and getting more familiar with the current technologies. We discovered Weglot. It's a software that you install very easily and you subscribe, and it automatically translates your content into several languages. And I was able to be the first one to do a little bit of quality control to see if the Spanish version was appropriate and okay. And since I felt okay with it, it's not perfect, but it's useful, it's okay. We started to add languages, and we came up with a new project based on this idea, because we realized that we didn't have a staff for each of the languages that we wanted to add in our list of languages of translations. So we decided to reach out to the different members of these multilingual communities and start having one-on-one conversations, not only to show them our website and to see how they felt about the information that was being translated, and also show them all our materials that were printed, but also to get to know them and to get to understand a little bit more about who they are, what do they do, how they arrive in Vermont, what do they need, how is their relationship with food and with food services and food access. So this is a huge project that is in the making, and the idea is to continue meeting with different members of the different communities that we are translating, and that we have identified these 15 communities and languages that we want to work with. And of course, it's a long-term project, and that's why the word journey at the beginning of this presentation, because this is a dynamic navigation, and the more we learn, the more we will change things, and the more we will update things. So far, we've met with 5 of them, and so far we've heard good things about our website translation. There are things to correct, and we're looking into new mechanisms to have those translation updated and corrected in an appropriate way. But for now, we are happy that we have at least the information available. And again, via meeting with all these different partners and community members, we've learned about the community of people that are deaf and deafblind and hard of hearing. And through them, we got connected with a service provider, Bancro Integrated Services. They work across the United States, and they have offices here also in Vermont. And we are right now, we're in the middle of making our first ASL video to interpret one of our flyers, which right now is the same that I mentioned before, is a fuel assistance. And 3 Squares Vermont, that flyers connect, it's a seasonal flyer that connects the Fuel Assistance Program with the SNAP program to make sure that people who apply for one can apply for the other, or receive one can receive the other. So we're in the middle of the process with VANCRO, and we are learning. As I said, we're learning as we go. One of the first things that we discover is that once we have the video ready, we can go back and redesign the flyer. So to leave a space, so to add a QR code for people with hearing impairments to use their devices to scan that QR code and be directed to the video that interpret that flyer. So that flyer eventually it will become accessible to people who cannot read English, but who can understand ASL. So we will be in the process of redesigning so many of our flyers once we are producing these videos and moving forward to make information accessible to this community as well. And yeah, that is the end of my presentation as it goes. And there's a bunch of this is happening every day. This is work that I do every day. And as I was finishing this presentation, we started a new conversations with new partners, and I decided not to keep on adding, not to make it so long, and instead stop and give you the chance to put questions if you have them, and also make my email available if you want to follow up with any of the things that I shared. And yeah.
Thank you, Mariana. We do have a question from Gabriella. How does Weglot, WEGLOT, compare to Google Translate?
Well, I don't know exactly how they compare. We decided to go with Weglot based on what our communication manager explored of different different softwares, and we felt that one seemed the best of the ones that were out there for the grab. So I don't know exactly how it compares with Google Translate.
Thank you.
Yeah,
just a reminder to everyone watching, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Mariana, would you mind typing your email into the session chat for folks?
Yes, of course. And also a reminder that the materials that I shared, that the slides are going to be shared, correct? Is that correct, Tanya?
That is correct. Yep. We can attach these slides directly to the session here in Excel events, and attendees are able to just download those directly. Thank you so much, Mariana. Any last questions from folks tuning in? All right. Well, feel free to drop those questions into the chat or Q&A. And in the meantime, I'm going to give a few closing announcements. Up next, we have a 30-minute break. So during that time, be sure to check out some of the on-demand content. You can do that by viewing the agenda and click the toggle on where it says show past sessions. You can also visit our sponsors' exhibitor booths. We'll see you back here at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time for your choice of one of 4 breakout sessions. To choose one of these 4, just click regular sessions in your navigation bar on the left of your screen and select your session from there. This concludes our time together. I don't see any additional questions in the chat or Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing your... Oh, wait, we have a question here. As a hospital system, I refer folks who speak other languages to community organizations who often don't have access to the same translation services that I do and have difficulty navigating to the other organizations. Do you have any tips for navigating making those connections when not everyone has the same ability to communicate with folks?
Let me think. Well, we are exploring, and this is one of the upcoming meetings that we have with a partner here in Vermont, is the Association of Africans Living in Vermont. They have a service that that provide immediate translation via an app, and that app connects people with translators in Vermont. And if they are not found in the moment, so say that I go to a place where nobody speaks my language, I can turn on, or vice versa. If you're an organization doing outreach and somebody approach you and you don't understand the language, you can turn on the app, request the interpreter in the moment, and you could have a conversation with that person via the interpreter. And it is charged to the user. There's a fee for using this app, and there is not cost to the person, like the person just using the translation. And it seems like what I've heard is pretty simple to use and pretty easy to access most of the languages. Of course, there may be languages that are not so widely spoken, and when you try to reach out, let's say that I'm putting, I don't know, May, that may be a language that is not so commonly spoken in Vermont or across the US, and they may not be able to find a translator right away. But for the languages that are mostly spoken, it connects the user of the app with the interpreter translator, so that they can have a conversation in the moment. So that's something that as an organization, anybody could start looking into this app for outreach purposes, or for talking to customers and clients when they come and there's nobody in the staff that speak their language. And I'm not sure if that is the tip that you're looking for. But yeah, it's an idea. It's an idea that's something that is being used and is coming as a tool.
Thank you so much, Mariana.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone who joined us today for this session. A reminder that we have a break coming up next, and then following that break, we'll have another series of 4 concurrent regular sessions. So just a reminder to visit the regular session in the navigation bar in the left of the platform, and you can choose your session from there. I think that concludes this session today. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the summit.